Hello and welcome to the Apple Insider Podcast. I am your host, Wes Hilliard, and I am joined once again by William Gallagher. Our sponsor this week is Insta360, but if you don't want to hear anything about sponsors, you can join Apple Insider Plus, our extended segment ad-free show. So this week we're going to be talking about Apple's place in, well, responding to the world, I guess. We're don't worry, it might get a little political. We'll talk about it later. You'll find out in the Controversy Corner, which has returned for this episode. So stick around. What we discuss there will be a continuation in the after show this week. So if you don't like what we have to say there, maybe you don't have to listen to the after show. But I promise it'll be a good one. Apple's response to government demands is the topic. So, William, as we're coming into the show, how are you doing?
I'm dreaming of a new iPad Pro. I've just been away, worked with my iPad only for 4 days, something like that, 5 days, actually. British Library, Paris, all over the place with it. And it was great, but it's an 11-inch one, and I've come away utterly convinced I need the bigger screen. So could you hurry up and please sort that out for me?
I mean, bigger screen's always better. I always go for the largest thing you can buy because it's what you need. For me, other than the iPad Mini, because there's only one size iPad Mini.
So far, actually, because one of the rumors I was hearing repeated today, it didn't seem like it was a new rumor, it's a repeated one, that there's a new iPad Mini coming. And who knows? I think the crux of the rumor was it will have an OLED screen, but doesn't that mean they're likely to read on the whole display, and so there might be smaller bezels? It might actually be exactly the same size but look bigger. I don't know what I'm talking about, do I?
I think a new iPad Mini with the current iPad Pro design features, meaning thinner, lighter, OLED, like that would be amazing. But that gets into the iPad Mini Pro territory that we've discussed before. I would love such a device. I'm not sure that Apple's going to make it, but there is precedence now. The entire iPhone 17 lineup has ProMotion OLED displays. So Apple isn't completely against making these devices a little bit more premium, even if at the same price point. So maybe we'll finally see some interesting stuff going on with iPad Mini that hopefully won't make it too much more expensive. Bigger? No. I mean, there's not much wiggle room between the Mini and the 11-inch. I mean, I guess you could have a 10-inch or a 9-inch iPad, but that would be silly at this point. Everyone's calling for foldables. We'll get to that in a minute. Well, actually, there's no foldable rumors this week, so I will say it here.
Let's make one.
Yeah.
There should be a foldable rumor. There'll be a foldable iPad in blue.
Jeff Pugh.
There you go, Jeff Pugh. Yes.
I do have a real story. Yeah, so Jeff Pugh did put out a statement saying that the foldable will be made of two materials, which is such an empty statement because we've heard this before. It'll be made of aluminum and titanium, but he didn't specify. What we do know is aluminum for the frame, titanium for the hinges, and that titanium would actually be liquid metal, which is not necessarily bare titanium. It's an alloy that's kind of forged with, what is that? What are those things called? Anyway, it's not your average titanium. It's a much harder substance that's more durable for long-term use in something like a hinge. Yeah, Pooh's kind of piggybacking off of people. And I wanted to make this piece a little bit more specific because everyone's just repeating what Pooh said, and I think that's silly. So I kind of dove into, like, what does this mean for iPhone? I think it makes sense that it would be an aluminum device because currently the iPad Air made of titanium, or I'm sorry, the iPhone Air made of titanium weighs nearly as much as the Samsung Galaxy Fold. That it so there's rumors that the iPhone Air is going to be the precursor to the iPhone Folds, literally, that it's going to be two iPhone Airs put together with a hinge. But if we take that to its, end result, it's a very heavy, very dense, very thick phone. It's just, there's no way that that's actually what's happening. So to put it to weight, the Galaxy Fold 7 weighs 7.58 ounces. It's about half a pound. The iPhone Air weighs 5.82 ounces by itself. So if we pretend the hinge weighs nothing, The iPhone
Right.
Fold would weigh almost 12 ounces. You're basically 3/4 of the way to a pound at that point.
That assumes a total duplication. So the battery, the motherboard, all of that were presumably
Sure. Cameras.
Thank you. Okay.
Here's how it'll actually work. Now, so first of all, I'm still on so put this in your betting apps, right? Get the what's the over under? Get the over under on this, because I'm still putting my money on the table that by May we're going to hear a rumor that Apple has delayed the iPhone Fold to an unknown future date, if not permanently, because we've been hearing. I went digging. I wanted to find this out because I've been saying it a lot, and I'm started wondering if it was even true, because it's just one of those things that feels right, and it is true. I wasn't making it up. The iPhone Fold has been 1 year away since 2018. An analyst in 2018, I'm sorry, 2 years away in 2018, but an analyst in 2018 said the iPhone Fold would arrive in 2020 and that Apple was already placing orders with Samsung Display.
Okay. They're just making things up. But
I am not making this up. It's in my article that we linked in the show notes.
no, not you. I'm thinking analysts are. But the difference now, there's a key difference now that you're willing to put money on the table, but you haven't said how much. So, let's make this a bit real. How about $1? Wait a minute.
A whole dollar.
That's not. That's what 80s pence here. Yeah. Well, we might make it higher stakes later.
Yeah.
Deal. You're on.
One can of soda, your favorite soda. So,
okay.
I think what's interesting here is we keep seeing all of these. Oh, it's coming around. It's coming around. I don't really see that much more evidence. I see a lot of people talking about it. There's definitely more discussion around an iPhone Fold than before. But rumors-wise, it feels close, right? I get why people think it's almost here. We're seeing Ming-Chi Kuo talking about component orders. We're seeing more foldables in the market. Google came out with its foldable. But I think most of this is a desire. It's wish casting. It's people want to see Apple's foldable so badly that they're just putting it out into the ether. Neil Hughes responded to me on Blue Sky about this, saying that there seems like there's too much smoke to say that this just isn't happening right now. So I agree there is a lot of smoke, but it's tricky. It doesn't feel like we're getting much more smoke than usual, though. It's just more discussion around the same smoke. That's all I'm saying. So we'll see what happens. iPhone Fold could be interesting. My argument still is it's unnecessary. Right, smart glasses, not smart glasses, but true AR glasses, I think, are the future. And I wanted to clarify real quick because we have a couple of topics here I want to get to, so I don't want to spend too much time on this. But I have one thing to clarify:
that you're wrong. How's that? Sorry, because I'm always on the opposite side of it. I really fancy a Fold iPhone, and I'm much less interested in headsets than you in whatever form they are. I don't know why. But so is that what you want to clarify, that I'm right and you're wrong? I'd be okay with that if you want to go ahead with that.
More specifically, I wanted to explain why I think the Apple Vision Pro is more realistic a future than a foldable. Apple has a lot of patents about foldables. Foldable Macs with base keyboards that are also displays, foldable iPads, foldable iPhones. So it's clear they're researching the technology. So I will say here, it is possible that Apple could come out with an iPhone Fold. And if they do, it's fine. I will consider it. I will consider a foldable iPad mini. I won't pre-decide on this. I don't hate the technology. I do believe that it's a bit of a fad, and it's a solution in search of a problem that we had a decade ago. And the problem was that we need more display, less space, right? So we wanted to carry larger things, but be able to store them and carry them easier. And that's where foldables made sense. It's why Samsung came out with theirs so early, because at the time that was a true solution to that problem. But very quickly, we saw AR VR stepping in, and it no longer mattered how big your display was because your canvas was now the world. And Apple Vision Pro took that even further by making it closer to real fidelity. I mean, we're still not quite to full fidelity, but it's pretty close. Of wearing a device that lets you pass through to the real world and make the entire world whatever display size you want. You can have a 50-foot cinema display floating above a lake inside of a Vision Pro. So my point is, Vision Pro may not be the alternative to foldables, but it's the first step to it. And my guess is the next generation Apple Vision Pro is going to be closer to what you would call safety glasses or ski goggles.
Oh, yeah.
In reality, not the euphemism we use to describe Vision Pro. I'm talking about actual heavy duty like ski goggles that fit. They're form fitting to your face, and they have padding around to keep snow and wind out. And they're just this giant visor that fits over your face, but they're not unduly heavy or thick, and they don't jut out 3 feet from your face. Right? I'm talking about actual form factor here. So that would be the next generation, and that is going to be much closer to an all-day wearable. Now, I'm not recommending people walk around all day with a display in front of their eyes, but that is another half step towards true AR glasses, which is the 10-year goal, I would say. And in the meantime, we're going to get smart glasses to be the intermediary between our phone and our watches and our eyes, right? So there's a lot going on in the space, but they're all better, more reasonable solutions than a foldable display that can probably break.
I was thinking, just as we started this, we'd kind of blurred the lines between a folding iPhone and a folding iPad. I realised, actually, that could be one thing that happens. We could stop talking about iPhones and iPads. There could just be one device that folds out into the other. I don't know what I think about that, because I tend to fancy the idea of an iPhone fold, not a folding iPad. But
I can't perceive it. Okay. Apple, that's the problem, is I don't think they're going to cannibalize iPad sales with a foldable iPhone. If we do get one, it will fold out into kind of an iPad mini form factor. So it kind of replaces both of those devices with one, but also it will cost more than those two devices combined.
Yes, yes.
We get into, and I think a lot of people forget this discussion when it comes to foldables, but we're getting into toaster fridge territory. A foldable iPhone is not going to be a good iPad, and it's not going to be a good iPhone, right? It's too clumsy and has a crease, unless they somehow figure out display creases, which physics probably just won't allow that. I mean, it's getting better. It's just, but it's still there. Like, and the device can fold. It can buckle, right, under certain pressures. So it's still not a complete tablet experience. And it's not a rigid tablet whole display. So you're making trade-offs for something. And just like you're making trade-offs for the iPhone Air. So I won't say that it's a complete loss or a complete failure of an idea. It has a niche. Like, people are buying Samsung's and Google's foldables and Xiaomi's and those other companies. But it's a very small niche, and they're very expensive devices. I just find it very amusing that everyone panned a $3,500 Apple Vision Pro, but they're actively celebrating a $2,500 smartphone. Right.
Okay.
We can pay $2,000 for an iPad Pro, $2,500 if you get a Magic Keyboard and Apple Pencil, but we won't pay $3,500 for what is basically a better iPad that you can wear on your face. But we're somehow okay with paying $2,500 for a foldable that will probably easily exceed $3,500 after you put 2 terabytes of storage in it. Right. So the question is why is one thing okay and not the other? And I understand people are mostly going to say utility, but I don't know. I would argue for me, utility-wise, I would be better off with a Vision Pro than a foldable iPhone. But that's just me.
Well, how about this? Because there was actually something I had to write about for AppleInsider a few days ago, which kind of fits into this. It's the Apple Glasses stuff that keeps coming back. I mean, you touched on it there with what the next Apple Vision Pro is likely to be, but then there's this whole other thread. And I've lost track of what's new and what isn't. The rumor I had to write about was that there would be Apple glasses, like spectacle-sized things. I think it was announced late 2026, on sale 27, something like that.
Yeah.
But that then there would be another generation at some point later, and that would have an AR display. And I felt, well, there's always going to be another generation of something. I don't fully understand what spectacles without an AR element would do for me. Yeah.
And I want to be clear, what you're describing isn't AR either. People, so this is, and this, I'm probably going to lose this war just like I lost the or the artificial intelligence war. Words have meaning, and people just apply words they change their meaning over time. Dictionaries usually acknowledge this, right? Artificial intelligence used to have a meaning, and now it doesn't. It fell apart, and society just kind of gave up on that and just calls everything AI now. The kids are just using AI in place of the word fake, which I find amusing.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
It's pretty great. But you look at augmented reality, and augmented reality had a meaning, and I hope it can stick to this meaning, but it is not what Meta's display glasses are doing, right? Meta display glasses are showing a static image in front of your eye. It's literally a display. It just so happens you're wearing this display. Just because I tape an iPad to my forehead doesn't make it AR, right?
Okay. Yes.
And Apple Vision Pro isn't technically augmented reality either when you're in the immersive view, but this is where it gets fuzzy, right? Apple Vision Pro can be augmented reality when it's in full pass-through mode and you're viewing displays. And people would argue that it is not augmented reality because you shouldn't be viewing it through pass-through. But here's my argument. Augmented reality, and this is getting very semantic oriented, but augmented reality just refers to placing digital objects in the real world and interacting with them in reference to the real world, and that's the important part. That's the key part. So I am placing widgets on the walls. I am mounting displays on my desk, right? That is augmented reality. Whether you're seeing it through a pair of glasses that are transparent or through a Vision Pro that is recreating reality through pass-through, it is still interacting with your environment. By placing a static display in front of your eye, you are not augmenting reality. You are placing a display in front of your eye. And that is a key metric here. Google Glass was not augmented reality. And I don't think anyone was arguing that. But it's funny to me that people look at Meta Display and they're calling it AR because it's just it's a fun buzzword they can reach for and understand, but it's not quite there. So making the point that Meta Display glasses are not augmented reality, and whatever Apple makes in this field currently is not augmented reality. So I want to establish here more formally, when I say Apple Vision Pro or Apple Vision, I'm talking about pass-through related goggles you wear over your face that take images from the outside world, pass it through to cameras that you view in your eyes, whether it's a giant headset that we have today or the eventual ski goggle form factor that fits closer to your eyes. And then part two of this is AR glasses, what we've called Apple Glass in the past, is transparent lenses that place. So basically you get Vision OS, all the widgets, all the windows, all the things, infinite canvas, looking around the room with displays that are transparent. That is AR glasses. And then we have smart glasses, and that is the market that exists today. That is Meta's Ray-Ban and their second generation Meta display glasses, right? So I'm making that distinction because I feel like people are confusing the technologies. Meta has not entered the Apple Vision Pro market. I mean, they have Meta Quest, but that thing it's a different product. It's a gaming device that happens to run Excel versus Apple is a productivity device that happens to run games. They are on opposite ends of the spectrum. I don't really think they're trying to compete. And if Meta did try to compete, it would cost a lot more money and they would fail because Meta has proven they cannot sell more expensive Quest devices, and they have given up on that. But just like that, they're not competing with Apple in any way, unless the only thing that Meta Ray-Ban glasses, the ones without the display, The only thing they're competing with is AirPods.
Right. See, this is where it comes to Apple's
What
glasses.
are they for? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds like the Bruce Springsteen song, doesn't it? War, what is it good for? Apple glasses, what do they do? I mean, especially the first one. If we know that ones with some kind of display are coming in the future, why would anybody buy the first generation, and what could they possibly give us?
I don't fully understand why media has done what it does, but it does its due, I guess. So it's very popular to say these are popular, but they're not very popular. We're talking a few million units, right? They're not selling like gangbusters. They're $300 glasses. They're for the frames, and you still have to pay for prescription lenses. I mean, we are talking about Ray-Bans here. Some Ray-Bans can get much more expensive when you're talking about the actual Ray-Bans, but Meta's just got a partnership to slap a logo on the side. They're very ugly, but people buy them because they are hands-free cameras that you can speak to and has a speaker in it that will play music to your ears and respond to you with an AI assistant. It is very niche. Again, we're talking like less people bought this than they did like a video game on a console that sold well, right? The metric for video games passing profitability and zeitgeist levels is at least 10 million copies, right? And we're not even talking about those numbers. We're well below 5 million. I think we're closer to 3 million at this point. So they're not, by any stretch of the imagination, what you'd call a popular product. They are popular within their niche because they basically created the niche and then supplied the market with it, right? But people are buying these. Snap Spectacles, I would be remiss to say, were the first, I think, to market, and then Meta kind of copied their concept and refined it with more AI features, which is using Meta's AI. And by the way, now, if you are a Meta AI user, and if you're using Meta glasses, anything you say to these glasses will be used for advertising, and Meta has confirmed this. So, cool.
Okay. Right, you're not selling me on this entire.
These are terrible products. I would never recommend anyone buy them. I would never buy them. I just saw a review. Mark Gurman put out a review of the Meta display glasses, and they're a worse display and a worse camera than you can get with literally any other device that's on you. You can't wear these and not have a smartphone, so you'd also have your iPhone with you wearing these glasses. So would you rather have a worse POV shot at 1080p, or would you rather pull out your iPhone and record a 4K video? Right? I don't understand. Like, the 3 million people that bought it, I think, are the minimum viable market, and I think that's it. Meta has found their market, and the of the 3 million, maybe 200,000 will buy the $800 Meta display glasses. That's it. That's the market, right? Meta display glasses might sell more than the Sony PSVR 2, which did not sell much, for reference. Anyway, I'm not trying to make fun of or disparage this product. It just truly is a very odd product that is not selling very well. But if you read tech news, it sounds like they're the greatest things ever. I don't know if there's like an ad deal. I don't know what, like, if maybe it's just click-through is big on these glasses, because they are interesting, right? It's like a foldable. They are interesting as a concept, and people are looking at them and saying, wow, this is interesting, but they're not buying them. So you can make an interesting thing all day. If it doesn't sell, it doesn't matter. So what's the point of Apple's glasses? Roundabout way to get to this.
Well, actually, before you do, I can't focus on why I would use these, because you gave the example of the cameras, that you could speak to it, so you tell your glasses to take a photograph. So there I am suddenly. Does it react to me saying "say cheese" to somebody? And what if that person moves and I want to say no, take another shot? It just seems so faster to take the first shot, but then infinitely slower to take every other one, and you say lower quality. So,
it's awful. Yeah,
right.
People try to be really generous with this. Like, it's a first generation product. It's passable. It's like, no, I don't want passable. I want good. And that's why I think, so I would never invest in a Meta product. I don't want anything to do with Meta personally. But I know this is fanboyish for me to say, but I'm very interested in seeing what Apple does here. Because if Apple is actually going to release these, and rumors are pointing to a 2026 announcement, I think that these are going to be very interesting in a different way. I think Apple's going to be much more fashionable, right? They are not going to be these boxy, ugly, terrible-looking glasses. And I don't care who you are or what you say or what model you get to wear these. They are terrible-looking glasses. Don't fool yourself. And they're just an eyesore. No pun intended. So the cameras would be much better, right? I'm talking probably selfie camera quality on iPhone, which is actually pretty good these days. So imagine a pair of our center stage cameras in this device, accompanied by much better design, right, from Apple, but also privacy. You're not listening to my voice and using that to display ads on my phone. It also is ecosystem advantage. It would connect to my iPhone and smartwatch and take good photos from a POV view, take good videos from a POV view. Like, there is something to it. And this is where it gets interesting. Imagine if you're wearing your Apple glasses, these smart glasses, and unlike that stupid demo Apple put out of that man recording his daughters playing in their living room with the Apple Vision Pro on, which is just not going to happen in real life without them turning from what they're doing and say, "Daddy, what are you doing?" Right? Ruining the whole thing. Imagine wearing a pair of glasses that are still clearly smart glasses, right? You're not going to completely make these anonymous, and I don't want them to. I want people to know I'm wearing cameras. But imagine wearing less ridiculous looking things and just saying, take a video, and then being involved in your life, doing things, observing your friends, your children, whatever, recording a spatial video from your point of view that you can then go back to the Apple Vision Pro and watch in full 3D glory and relive that moment, right? That is the use case of these glasses. They are a companion to the existing Apple ecosystem and will offer things that the Meta glasses never could and won't, because Meta does not have the same ecosystem advantage, right? So without a display, you can already do things that you can't do with anything else, like recording good spatial video from your point of view, capturing decent enough photos. Your iPhone will always capture better photos, but decent enough spatial photos. You will also have access to your assistant via voice. So no raising your wrist to talk to your watch, no pulling at your phone, no speaking even to a speaker. You would just have one next to your ear, able to ask a quick question. Or my only thing is, I don't think these will have AirPods in them. Maybe they'll have audio pods like the Apple Vision Pro that are meant to be used personally. But I think Apple's going to sell these hard as companions to everything else. So if you want more than just a quiet reply from your assistant in your ear, if you want to listen to music, you pull out your AirPods and put them in. And then they pair with the glasses. And when you speak, right, it's all working together, William. Multiple input points, all connected, all wearables. I think Apple has an ecosystem advantage here that makes these actually interesting and useful and private and secure and safe as a device. Something that I would actually want to buy.
This episode is brought to you by Insta360. Their brand new pocket camera, Go Ultra, just launched. It's the size of an Oreo, it weighs under 2 ounces, and yet it can shoot super smooth 4K video at 60 frames per second. It's so light and so small that you won't notice it in your pocket, and yet it takes such great video that it can be your only camera. With a built-in magnetic mounting system, you can also clip this tiny thing to your clothes and then run around, cycle around, drive around, and know you're getting effortless perspective POV shots. Or for, say, a dynamic shot of you riding right up to the lens, snap the Go Ultra magnetically onto a street sign. Go Ultra has an upgraded sensor that means it delivers great shots day and night. It comes as a tiny unit called the standalone camera, and then there's an action pod that's part of it. It's barely any bigger, and yet it extends the shooting time. With the standalone camera on its own, you get 70 minutes of 4K filming, and with the action pod, that goes up to 200 minutes. And that action pod is also a remote control. Insta360 is offering AppleInsider listeners a free sticky tab, another way to help you mount the camera anywhere from down jackets to up backpacks. To get one of these with your Insta360 Go Ultra purchase, go to store.insta360.com and use the promo code AppleInsider. Available for the first 30 purchases only. store.insta360.com. For more details, check out the link in the description, and thanks to Insta360 for supporting the Apple Insider podcast. I agree with all of that. The ecosystem, the privacy. Well, I find it fascinating that quite often you and I are on opposite sides of this. Like, I am much more interested in folding devices than you. I am much less interested in the glasses and spectacles. So previously, we've been very much, I'm a Mac guy, you're an iPad guy. And right now, I'm actually becoming really, really extra keen on iPads. So actually, something else that really did happen this week, so not rumour, not future predictions and stuff, but there was an update to the iPad this week, which I haven't got because I've been away, but I know you have, and I understand that it returns slide over. Is that right? Is that good?
Slide over is back in iPadOS 26.1 Beta 2. So I installed it to try it out. And for fans of slide over, you're going to not like this. This is okay. It's it is beta 1, like, okay, beta 2 of an operating system, but it's the first beta ever that this has appeared. It is very hacked together. It's clearly a response to the desire of having slide over. It's very interesting in the fact that it is a transparent gray border around the window. It's fully resizable as a window as well. But you cannot have multiple apps in a stack. It is one app at a time. If you open a slide, how this works is you go to the traffic lights, long press, and there's a menu option that says add to slide over, and it'll move to slide over. If you do that to a second app, the first app will pop out of slide over, and the second app will go into slide over. There's only one app. But you can't do a swiping gesture to hide it. I'm sure that'll come eventually. I can't talk about it too much now because it's in beta, so I'm sure a lot of this is going to change. But right now, if you do this 4-finger swiping gesture to dismiss the slide over window, it just swipes the windows behind it. No swiping gestures, nothing will affect it. If you grab the top of the menu and try to slide it off of the screen, sometimes it just ignores you and bounces back. You can still do the mouse gesture where you press against the screen and keep scrolling to show or hide it. So I'm glad that's there because it's the only way I can get this to work. But right now, slide over, funny enough, is how I am recording this podcast on my iPad because, William, gain control has also appeared in iPadOS 26.1.
I came in on the wrong thing then. I knew about I didn't know about game controller. You totally put me off slide over, and I wasn't a fan of it before. I never used to remember it was there, but I thought people love it so much I should try it now. Yeah, whatever, I will. Game control, because I remember you have had problems with this before.
Yes, my microphone does not have onboard gain control, so when we tried to record the podcast from it before, I came through crispy and poppy, and it was not good. It was very blown out, and that episode was not up to our usual quality. William did his best with it, and I think it was listenable, but it was not very good audio. But finally, Apple has added gain control, and it's interesting. We don't know what this sounds like until it's done. What William is hearing right now is different audio. So Apple has a weird audio system on iPad that it's not how macOS works, right? macOS, when you input an audio, it outputs the other end, and that's it. So what William hears on Riverside is pretty much what you hear in my local recording, just less compressed. This is different. we've realized what William hears is my call audio, and it's coming through my microphone that I'm recording from. But for Apple, I think does something to it, and it is doing like internal gain controls and stuff that would happen on a phone call to make sure the other end is coming through good. That's why like we didn't realize how blown out I was until after the recording was done, because the local audio was different.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I think Apple is processing the call audio and is not processing the local audio, and that is the difference, and that is desirable as someone who wants the local audio to be unaltered. The microphone is doing a form of voice isolation using iPadOS's voice isolation feature, so that might also make me come through a little bit more poppy than usual. We'll see how that sounds. But yes, this is different. It also, I wanted to note, I had to lower the gain control much more on iPad than I would on Mac. On Mac, my gain control is usually set at about 80, maybe 70%. Gain control here is set closer to 50%. So if I'm quieter in this recording, that would be why. This is a big experiment. We'll find out together as we publish this show. And if it's particularly bad or unusable, we'll move back to Mac recording for the foreseeable future. But I expect this will be fine. I've listened back to the audio. It sounds fine. I just don't know how it'll interact and intermix with Williams' recording. That's the last question in this. But
so
yes.
Just to check,
Yes.
Everything else is the same. Your microphone is the same and things. I don't think I've ever tried using an iPad to do a podcast, because I mean it's not very long ago that you couldn't possibly do it. You're plugging in your microphone to the USB-C socket, I presume. What apps are you using to record?
So Riverside has an iPad app, so I'm recording using that. It's in SlideOver, so it doesn't kind of disappear somewhere. And it's using call audio, so I don't think Riverside would just randomly close. Call audio gets foreground attention in iPadOS, and it also has all those new background things. So it's not like I'm going to lose the call, but I was just especially cautious, so I put it in SlideOver, so it remains somewhat active. It's actually, this is going to sound funny, William, it's easier to record a podcast on iPad than it is on Mac.
Okay. I know I love my iPad and I want another one, but I am Mac through and through. So yes. Prove it.
So it's a system feature. And if Apple brings this to Mac, it'll put another nail in the coffin for QuickTime, which I don't think is going to go anywhere, but its usefulness is eroding over time. So how we record on Mac is I open QuickTime and start a recording. Then I open a Chrome browser, go to Riverside, and log in and join the call. And then we're recording a local and web version of this call. Great. Mm-hmm. On iPad, I just opened the Riverside app, which is built for iPad natively, instead of having to use Chrome. Yay. And then it might actually be a, what are those things called? A web app.
Chromium.
But
yeah. Okay.
What's the word
Electron,
I'm looking for?
No.
Electron app, yes. But it's still an app, which I don't want to use Chrome. So victory there. But the reason why it's easier, William, so yes, I still need a recording station, whether it's Chrome or Riverside. But there's no QuickTime involved. I just we start the call, I join Riverside, then I go to Control Center, and I hit a button, and I am now recording locally. And then at the end of the call, I hit the same button, and the file is saved to Files, Downloads, and I have a local audio recording.
All right, so that's taking out an intermediate, optional third-party app. That sounds handy, but I was expecting something a bit more revolutionary from the Mac is dead, iPad rules.
No. It's just easier, is all I'm saying. It's a system feature. So it's one, like, teaching people to use things like QuickTime can be a fuss versus just make your call on. We could do this over FaceTime. We don't even need Riverside. Riverside's useful, though, because it provides a cloud recording, I guess, a call recorded that's got both of our audios joint together, the actual call audio. So it's more compressed, but it's a good backup solution. Whereas if we record, you can do this. We tried this. You can record FaceTime audio using the FaceTime call recording feature and local recording The problem is FaceTime audio inserts a chime every few minutes randomly.
Yeah.
And we don't want a chime in our podcast. So, yeah, you're going to need some kind of client. Riverside at this point might be overkill. We'll figure that out later. But, yeah, it's fairly simple to record on iPad. And if this works out, I'm very excited because I might rethink some of my podcast setup. But, yes, it's possible. SlideOver exists. It's just one app now. This update is actually pretty impressive. I saw someone make the joke that iPadOS 26.1 has more iPad features in it than iPadOS 18. So I think it's very funny.
I keep coming back to there's a new iPad coming, there's a new iPad coming. Do you think that this update in some way enables the heavily rumoured new iPad Pros coming in some way?
Separate. The new iPad Pros are going to just be the same iPads with an M5 chip. Maybe an Apple Pencil feature update, because that's usually what Apple does to justify, like, it's not just a chip update. You also get, Hover or whatever. So something will change, but very little will change. And I don't know. It's going to be tough to convince me to move on from this device unless work necessitates it. And that's a discussion I'll have to have with our people. But, like, sure. As far as I'm personally concerned, if perfect world, if I wasn't doing this for AppleInsider, I don't know that I would upgrade to an M5 iPad Pro. But we'll see what happens. Because I did skip. I was M1 iPad Pro forever. I didn't get M2 or M3. I got the M4. So this might be what I ride for a couple of years until Apple comes out with a truly different iPad.
A new version of the iPad, a striking new direction. All of these things could come if Apple fires the guy I can't pronounce the name of, who runs AI, and Tim Cook resigns, and Mark Gurman joins the board, and all of these things that seem to be rumoured to be going on. Is that what you're thinking?
So, no. I think what's funny here is Gurman has continued his very I think he really enjoys this topic because he puts a lot of effort and exuberance into his writing about every single job change that happens at Apple. It's just very amusing to me. And he's done it again and written about John Giannandrea basically going to get replaced. Was that Gurman? I might be misattributing this, but yes, it was Gurman. Why would I even second guess myself? Of course it was Gurman. So John Giannandrea might be getting replaced, which was the writing was on the wall for months. I could have written this article a year ago. He's a lot of his things that were underneath him have been moving to other people, like Mike Rockwell and everything like that. So, yeah, I don't know that he's going to leave the company, but head of AI ML might be changing soon. He might have a pretty cushy position with Apple. Who knows? I'm sure, financially speaking, he's fine. So, don't really need to pour one out for John Giannandrea. But this brought up a different topic of, well, what other Apple executives are close to being replaced? Not because of incompetence, but because of retirement, right? They're getting up there.
Yeah.
And so I wrote a story here really quickly. Apple CEO Tim Cook, 64 years old. General Counsel Catherine Adams, 61. Services Eddie Q, 60. Giannandrea, 60. Joswiak, 61. Sabine Khan, COO, 59. Theodore O'Brien, 59. Johnny Cerrugi, 61. Jeff Williams, 62. And then you have Craig Federighi, 56. Kevin Parek, 53. And John Turnus, 50. Right? So
I want to say house.
Yeah.
But okay, right. Sorry, there was such a bingo theme to that over there. I nearly won something. But okay, that's interesting, isn't it, that they're all in the same ballpark, so likely to all leave at the same time. And
they've all been in charge. Okay, with the exception of the 50-year-olds, they've all been in their position pretty much since a decade ago. So
yeah.
You can imagine Tim Cook taking over Apple at the ripe age of 50. right? And then he's now 64, right? It's not that he's, incapable or needs to go. It's just age comes for us all, right? So the question is, what does Apple look like 10 years from now? Clearly, most of these will not be the same. Retirement for the millionaires usually means more like 55, and these people are already well past that. So it's a question. What is the succession plan? And we don't need to stick to this for very long. Clearly, Apple has a lot of replacements. We have an article that has 3 executives that could replace Tim Cook. I'm not going to buy into that. I think the person that replaces Tim Cook is someone we've never heard of. That is an Apple employee, but I'm sure that he's currently cleaning a printer or something, right? So we'll see where this goes. I think Cook is going to probably make it to 2030. I know that's absurd. He'll be pretty much 70 at that point, but I think Cook wants to ride this out as long as he can until he's just not functional. Unless a health thing happens, I think he's going to stick around as long as he physically is able to.
Not to presage anything to controversy corner, but I have a feeling Tim Cook will stick around until Trump is gone.
Maybe. So 2029 would be inauguration, but that still pretty much 2030. So my guess is he'll start winding down operations in 2029 when he feels comfortable about leaving the company. And then a secession will take place by 2030. And that is my current guess, and I think you're correct. So we're in agreement here. But I do think that the current leadership lineup does not contain the next CEO. It's fun to pick. Like, there is a line of succession, of course. If Tim Cook had to go somewhere, someone would step in, and it would be one of these guys. But we're not talking about succession. We're talking about his replacement. So I do want to point out here, and then we can move on. Every single one of these people, the minute any of them retire, I don't care if it's the general counsel, right, who's just a lawyer, a very well-paid lawyer, I'm sure. Every single one of these movements is going to get like the world's biggest front page headline from Bloomberg's Mark Gurman of departing Apple in disgrace and anger, and Apple Intelligence was the worst thing ever, and whatever they can pull for the anger and hatred that they want to because it gets the clicks. So just don't read into it too much. These people are retiring. They're going to move on to greener pastures. So I'm very excited for the next phase of Apple. I read recently, and I wish I'd written it down or saved the link, but someone, probably New York Times or something, said that American business has come in phases. Phase 1 was the founders phase of Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. Phase 2 was the startup phase, where we saw a lot of move fast and break things, the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world. I'm sorry, I think that was still part of phase 1 because that was still a founder. Phase 2 would be when we see Tim Cook and
Steve Ballmer, maybe, on Microsoft.
I was blanking on Google's person, but anyway, the second generation of leadership coming into these companies, basically replacing the founders, and now we're at the end of that. Right, those people who replace the founders for whatever reason are quickly approaching retirement. And Sundar Pichai, there we go. It would come to me eventually. So yeah, we're in the next phase. Who comes in? Is it going to be a move fast, break things guy? Is it going to be more of the same? Are we going to see Tim Cook clone himself and replace him with another Tim Cook, or are we going to see something totally different? Something in between. Engineering, people really want Craig Federighi, even though he's up there in age, because he understands engineering, software and hardware, and he understands the company in a way that a lot of people don't. So could we get someone like that? I don't think it's going to be someone as technical as Johnny Chirurgi. I don't think it's going to be someone as personable as John Turnus, right? Those are wish casting, I think. I think it's going to be more it's going to be a business person. It's going to be very closely aligned with Tim Cook's goals. right? We're going to be pursuing the stock market, but I'm hoping that somewhere mixed in is a little bit of that Apple magic. And I think that's why currently we don't know who is replacing Tim Cook, because it's hard to say who perfectly personifies this company.
Well, you were saying there about technical and personal things. I realise one of the reasons I think Cook will stick around until after Trump is gone is that right now Apple also needs a politician to get through things, and there are other political issues going on. The EU's Digital Markets Act, and actually, weirdly, because I've been away in Europe, I'm unaware of what's been going on with this, but AppleInsider has news of the fact that the antitrust debacle, I think is the good word for it, may be settled soon or something. Do you know the details of what I missed on that?
No, I was hoping you would. It seems that there's nothing really to say here other than Apple and Meta are in discussions to settle, basically, to cease the fines and come to a final agreement and say, okay, DMA is enacted, you're in compliance, the end. How do we get here? So hopefully we will stop talking about this. There's really nothing to say. Apple says that it has been complying. The EU says it has not. And so maybe they'll find a way to meet in the middle, or maybe they won't, and we'll be talking about this for another decade. But they are at least meeting about it, which is more than I can say about our government, which is currently shut down. And that brings us to Controversy Corner. So, of course, we try to keep things politically light in the main show because we save it all for this section. It's already a dreary enough world. We don't need to make anyone else more upset or whatever, or bring any sad news into what is normally a very uplifting show. So we try to isolate it. It's been off on a hiatus for a few weeks because while things have been going on, it hasn't been pressing enough in the Apple world, but a few big things have happened this week. So we're going to do a segment briefly on the goings on. So if for whatever reason, personal to you, you do not want to listen to this section, feel free to skip to the final chapter of the show. We do include chapter markers. So the marker after Controversy Corner, just tap it and you can move on. Because I understand either you don't agree with what we're saying and it just makes you angry, or maybe you're just already up to your ears in news and don't want to hear anything else about the news. I get it. So feel free to skip to the next chapter. We're beginning Controversy Corner right now. So, Ice Block. This has been a whole thing this past week, and it's only escalated since. So briefly, Ice Block is an app that was created by someone to help people who might need to know the locations of ICE. Primarily people who would be either harassed or arrested by ICE because of their skin color or because of protesting or what have you. So this app was basically being used by people who were documented or not, usually people who were Hispanic or maybe even black or just, not white at this point, because ICE has been targeting everyone. It's a very sad state of affairs over here in the United States. I want to say this as a disclaimer. I understand that there's a lot of biased news out there, and the problem with news in general in the world is controversy pays. So a lot of the news is built around controversy. So most of either side, I don't care if you're Democratic, Republican, whatever, right? The Democrats calling for peace and asking for a vote to end the shutdown aren't being covered because that's boring. The news wants to cover the loudest, most angriest people, right? And so it might seem like everything is coming unraveled. I have more confidence. I don't think it's as bad as it seems. It's just we have a lot of very loud people saying very bad things, making it feel a lot worse than it is. So I want to comfort people in that way. The world is not ending, right? ICE is doing some very atrocious things, though, because it's not what's being said, it's what's being shown. And we can see with our eyes what is happening, right? A raid on a Chicago apartment that was primarily housing black people being basically terrorized by this armed militia, dragging people out in their night clothes, children in their underwear, zip tying them together and throwing them in the grass. all because they weren't white. Most of them American citizens. It's abhorrent. You do not want to see these things. And I'm not, this is just literally video you can go watch on the internet. I'm not saying anything particularly controversial. It happened. So the reason why IceBlock exists is because this group, which was formed after 9/11 to secure our borders and help with immigration control. That's what it stands for, is immigration control and the other word, enforcement. So it's now being weaponized to achieve goals of an administration that feels like America, or at least wants you to believe America is under attack by immigrants, which is not true. By all intents and purposes, by all data, it's not true. But this weaponized force is going around the country doing terrible things to people who are just trying to live their lives. So this app allowed them to avoid caravans driving around in the hopes that they would get home peacefully from the grocery store or their job, right? Or if they were at work and there was one approaching their workplace, maybe they could escape out a back door before being harassed, even though they're an American citizen, but just because they speak a different language. And they were also using this app to form protests, seeing where ICE was planning its next raid, and protesters would show up at the raid and stand there with signs. Some of them, now it's pretty amusing, dreadful situation. But in Portland, you can go and see a person in a frog costume who is Hispanic getting shot with pepper balls, right? It is a incredible video in the worst ways, but it is so encompassing of 2025. But that's how the apps were being used. But the U.S. government wants us to believe that the app was being used to attack ICE, which there's zero evidence of. I challenge anyone listening that disagrees with me to show me evidence of this. It just does not exist. Don't show me a person on YouTube saying that that's what's happening. That is not evidence. So they use this as a cudgel to say IceBlock is unsafe and needs to be removed from the App Store. And Apple said, okay. They didn't fight it. They didn't push back. And then it went further. They removed similar apps from the Google Play Store. They removed other apps, not even related to tracking ICE physically. They removed a historic app that was called Eyes Up, which documented what ICE was doing. It saved TikTok videos and articles, YouTube Instagram reels, all into one place to have a historic document of everything ICE was doing, and an app people could download and go view. It had no location tracking, nothing live, all historical data. And Apple removed that as well upon the government's request. Why is this happening? Because the government does not want to have this information out there, because what they're doing is unconstitutional and terrible, and they don't want it documented. It's as simple as that. Why didn't Apple fight back? It has legal standing. This is a First Amendment issue. The government cannot tell Apple to remove this app from the App Store. It is not any different than a pothole tracker in Apple Maps, right? It is totally legal and protected repeatedly through courts up to the Supreme Court, saying that this is all legal. You can go in the Apple Maps app and mark where a speed trap is, where a police officer is sitting on the highway. If you can observe it in public, it is legal speech and protected by the First Amendment. So why was it removed if there's no legal precedent? Because Apple, this is where it gets funny. I see a lot of people on the internet acting as if Apple just said, okay, acted on a whim and just popped it off the App Store. They had meeting after meeting after meeting with all their lawyers, and that very well-paid lawyer that they have on their staff, right, to say, what do we do? And they came to a conclusion, right? Apple had two choices here, and Mike and I agree on this. Mike Worthley, he wrote a very excellent post we'll include in the show notes about Apple's choice. He maybe didn't ascribe it in the same way I would have, but he was accurate. Apple had a choice here. They comply and remove the app from the App Store, or they don't comply and go to war, similar to how they fought with San Bernardino and unlocking encryption for the FBI. There's a key difference, though. Apple had the legal system on its side with San Bernardino. It could go to the courts, sue, and win based off of the logic of law and order. But today, we have a government run by Donald Trump in the White House, the Supreme Court, Congress on both the House and the Senate, and now increasingly the lower line court systems. So how do you battle with someone who owns all of your options for opposition? It is the cowardly way, and I agree with that sentiment, that Apple chose to protect its own skin in this situation and just remove the apps rather than fight the government. But at the end of the day, even though it's not morally correct, I think it is overall correct, because Apple is a company that needs to survive this administration, and the only way to do so is to play a little bit of the ball, but only as literally the bare minimum of ball playing here. Okay? They have to survive this administration. And once Trump goes away, all these problems go away. Apple doesn't have to make these very sad decisions anymore, because it is upon them because of what is happening in our country. So hopefully, even though they had to comply with this removal, and hopefully because Ice Block and other apps like it will move to the web and hopefully continue their service, and because Apple, even though it has the ability to, did not turn off Ice Block's functionality. If you already had this app downloaded, which I hope everyone did who needed it, it still works, right? So they are only complying with the letters of the request and doing nothing more, which cannot be said for any other tech company. Google, Meta, they're all complying above and beyond what is being called for by the U.S. government in order to try and achieve some sort of appeasement, I suppose. Yeah. Apple's doing the barest minimum here to get around this, and hopefully we will see an end to it soon. This too shall pass, and I'm asking everyone listening to not ask Apple to fight your wars for you. We can win this by voicing our concerns, by protesting, and by voting. Apple will not topple a government for us, right? We can't expect them to battle this out. And giving up your iPhone and moving to something else isn't the answer either, because who else is there? Every other option is so much worse. So let's stick it out. Let's hope for the best, and let's pray that this all ends soon.
A significant word you used there was request. Apple was not ordered to do this because it cannot be ordered to do it. Yes. Legally, there is no grounds for it. So Apple capitulated to a request. Now, so did other people, but if you remember, not very many weeks ago, Disney capitulated to a request for it. Disney suffered over that, the removal of Jimmy Kimmel, the stock goes down, all these things, and Disney then eventually fights back. Now, I have a lot of issues with Disney and what it's done over so many things, particularly with writers, but in that case, they saw that it was better for them to stand and fight. I think the thing you're missing with this argument is that although it makes sense, it is absolutely, totally certain that there will be more. Now that Apple has capitulated on this, there will be more requests.
Absolutely.
Apple could ride out this. There's no way this administration could shutter Apple for it. Apple could ride it out without doing anything for it and let it go to court, let the legal process happen. Apple doesn't have to pay token fees to anybody. So
I agree to an extent that Apple could fight this. They have the financial ability to. And I'm not really worried about Apple shuttering. I'm more worried about them fundamentally changing as a company. I'm worried about things getting so bad with sanctions that the shareholders force a vote and change the leadership and fundamentally alter the state of the company. I worry about sanctions getting so bad that Apple products become unaffordable or unavailable, right? I'm worried about the literal trade warfare that the Trump administration is willing to go through to punish Apple for anything that they do. The difference between Jimmy Kimmel and this is Jimmy Kimmel said something that the MAGA party didn't like, the FCC chair echoed, didn't like. The Ice Block app and its associated Ice apps has the full force of the DOJ piling up on top of Apple removing it. This isn't Brendan Carr on a podcast. This is the Attorney General and the Department of Justice telling Apple, hey, we're requesting you to remove these apps based on our concerns.
But the interpretation of Carr on a podcast was that this was the FCC saying it. So that might have been
Right.
true, and he's denying it, of course, but that is the pressure that people believed they were facing. That's why they caved. If you worry about Apple changing because of anything the Trump administration would do, is there an argument that it already has, that this capitulation is not what it did before? It is a new Apple.
To an extent. But I would argue that this is a result of the current administration. Remove the administration and none of this happens. And once the administration is gone, which no matter what, legally will be in 2029, but we'll see what happens in 2026 with the midterms. But the thing is this whole situation is completely unprecedented. If this was any other president, any other thing happening, and it was just the DOJ being a bully, I would say, sure, yeah, Apple should stand up. I just don't, there's no avenue for winning this, especially since Jimmy Kimmel situation was such a one-sided thing where everyone just was very disgusted by it. Whereas I think this whole ice block situation is very confused because the media reporting around this is night and day depending on which channel you're watching. So I don't think Apple would have as much of a lifting support as maybe reestablishing Jimmy Kimmel. This is all getting too deep in the weeds, but I want to say that, like, again, I think Apple, if I was, nobody wants to be in Tim Cook's shoes, and I think everyone trying to armchair CEO the situation doesn't have a full grasp. We don't know what threats were made behind the scenes.
No, true. Good point.
Communications were made. We don't know anything other than what has occurred, and what has occurred is an app was removed from the App Store that people can still use, and people can still iMessage each other or form local communities and phone trees. Like there's ways to do this. There are web versions of IceBlock already going up that people can use. So Apple may have done something that is not great in this battle that we're having, right? But at the end of the day, they get to continue on as is, mostly unaffected. And maybe they have a black eye to their reputation that they can repair later. But I would prefer that than whatever nonsensical legal battle would occur as a result, because it would be terrible, right? Apple still employs all kinds of people who are immigrants and trans people who would be a primary target for retribution. And Apple can continue employing those people by cowering and avoiding conflict. At the end of the day, this ends when the current administration ends. And I don't think, and then you look at other places, it could be so much worse, right? YouTube, Google paying Trump millions of dollars to settle a nonsense lawsuit just to keep him happy. And then turning around and taking it 10 times further than they ever needed to by basically saying, we're never going to moderate facts again. We're removing fact checking from YouTube, and we're reinstating all of the people who did so much harm with misinformation on our channels by allowing them to come back. Right. So, Meta, similar situation, no more fact checking, millions of dollars in payments, and all of these things that, erode the foundations of a free and open internet. Whereas all Apple has done is comply with a request to remove an app that should be allowed on the App Store, but by doing so has eliminated the 10 million tons of other damages that could have been done. And I agree with you. This is probably the first of many things that will be bad and only get worse. And I wonder what line will be crossed when Apple will finally say no. But for now, they've bought a little bit more time. And if they can keep punting this down the road 3-6 months at a time, maybe we can escape with minimal damages on the other side, at least as far as Apple's concerned, because we are talking again about a company that cannot go to war with the United States government. One last thing, because we are running long, for Controversy Corner, Texas demands that there's age verification. Apple has implemented ways for developers to implement this. It's fine. It's privacy preserving, thankfully, but not everyone's doing that. Discord has an age verification system that was breached. and they claim at least 70,000 IDs and passports have been stolen by this breach, whereas a different party says more than 2 million have been stolen by this breach. Whichever, greater than 1 is more than we want. So bad. Age verification is bad for the internet. It is bad for us. Should not be happening. And I hope this all goes away, as we've discussed with this administration. But we do need to move on and conclude the show. So you have any last comments?
Only that I'll be glad to get to the bit after Controversy Corner. I was going to kid that I'm the one who puts chapter markers in, so I might move them around just to fiddle with your mind. But in this case, no. The next chapter mark will be safe from here on in, or something shorter than that.
Yeah, I didn't mean to get too preachy. I understand this stuff is complex, and if anyone ever wants to talk about this stuff, I'm available on Blue Sky or email. There is a tendency to blow up this stuff because, again, controversy sells, and we're literally in a section called Controversy Corner. But from the, for one, Apple News Today is outstanding in their coverage of everything. They do such a good job of just telling things as they are. I won't say that they are immune from bias, but they are just sharing the news. And I love that about it. If you guys don't listen to it, I highly recommend it. That's where I get a lot of my daily information, and then I can break it down from there with access to other articles and information and the people I follow. But the key here is that experts are saying is inflammatory language and headlines are part of the problem. That there is a serious issue in the United States, in our government, how it's being run, ICE. Like, those are all serious issues, and the videos that you see of those things happening are real. But, and there's no war in Portland, right? There's no, all of that stuff is it's so very funny. But, because there's photo evidence that is not happening. Believe what you see with your eyes, right? Go read 1984. What's the quote? Their final and most important requirement is that you cease to believe what you see with your eyes and hear with your ears, something like that. But things are bad, but they are not world ending. Our democracy still holds so far, and things will change for the better. It's just these things do take time. It's a big ship to steer, and I think this was a little unexpected, even for the people who didn't like Trump. I think this is severely way further along than we ever thought it would be at this point in time. But if you want to know why we're where we are, go read Project 2025, which is now 60% complete. If you didn't think he was going to do it, he's actively doing it. And if you want to know what's happening next, it's all written down. But we will conclude there and move on to a much happier topic.
Yeah, I think the next chapter should actually be called So Anyway. What do you think about that? Yeah.
Yeah. I had a lot to say here, and again, I didn't mean to go on too long, but it is our problem here in the U.S., and I knew William wouldn't have too much to say outside of what is the happenings, and I wanted to make sure that we had a good overview of the situation. But we are now out of Controversy Corner. Hello, welcome to the other side. Much happier tidings. Underdogs is back, William. I thought they were gone forever after they, had that whole snafu with Bangkok, right?
Yeah, but that one was so good. I
loved it.
I really enjoyed. I'm glad I saw it before it went away, and I'm hoping that copies are floating around. I don't actually think the new one out this week is as good somehow as previous ones, but it's good to see the gang is back.
It raised a lot of questions, is there a container convention? Or did Apple buy a warehouse, hire a bunch of actors, and fill it out for and I understand there's movie magic and you can get away with building literally 3 inches of set and then blue screening the rest of it in, but still, it's just the production here was really fun to think about. How did they do all of this? All these stand-ins, obviously, that they had walking around. But it was a cute little storyline. Sustainable packaging company that we've been following. I think theoretically they're the ones who invented the pizza box at Apple Park or something.
Right.
Right, because Apple did patent that. I don't know if you remember.
I didn't remember that. No. Okay.
Yeah, they patented a pizza box for a Cafe Max. But yes, the Underdogs thing was fun. It's just this group of misfits. But what's interesting about it, and I don't know who this is for. That's my question. Who is Apple making these videos for? Because I find them entertaining. Maybe it's just for me. Apple just specifically making it for me. But the entire point is to showcase Apple products being used by seemingly real human beings, getting notifications, using your Apple Watch features, like wrist flick was in there. They snuck in a lot of references to like notifications and AirDrop and name drop and stuff like that. But then the punchline of this whole thing was the blue screen of death, which Windows people, I've noticed very quickly, were very angry about.
Is it not still a thing?
Okay, it's a thing. Because if you look at the fragmentation of the market, there's still a lot of computers running a version of Windows with that. But even though it doesn't blue screen of death, it still fails. They just changed what it looked like, right?
Oh, right. Okay.
It's like a black screen of death now, I think. But I guess this acronym still works. But either way, they were making fun of the reliability of Windows and security. And if they weren't clear, basically at this convention for boxes, containers, a viral thing went through the local web service everyone was using to access the internet, right, at the convention center, and blue screened all, like basically wormed in and destroyed all of these Windows computers and made them fail. And so the solution was for everyone to get a Mac, which very funny. At the end, there was just a guy carting around a pile of MacBooks and Mac Minis, handing them out to people. I don't know who paid for these Macs being handed to everyone, but leave that up to your imagination. It was a cute little thing. I found it mostly inoffensive and fun, but yeah, showcasing a bunch of Apple features, maybe playing a little too hard on the security standpoints. But what do you think of our new character, the security professional?
I thought we'd seen her before in one of the previous ones. Am I wrong? Oh,
right. No. They were the guy in the chair.
A security. Yeah. Oh, maybe. I'll tell you the only thing that bothers me is that is this the fourth or fifth now, and Apple has never credited who writes them at all. I mean, these are really well done things, but I mean, when AirDrop gets a credit on screen and the writer doesn't, I think there's an issue there. But
do you think Tim Cook writes these?
Yeah, no. Short answer.
No, it was fun. Go watch it. I think it's like 8 minutes. It's worth it as an Apple fan. Just a lot of cute little nods, and I've shown these. I haven't shown this one to my fiance, but I've shown these to my fiance before, and she finds them entertaining, even though it's very clear. Just it's an 8-minute ad for Apple products, but cutely disguised. Yes. Could you see Apple turning this into an Apple TV Plus show? Think of Superstore, like, or The Office, right? Like, just have these be the characters, and they just go about their business being a box company.
I don't actually think it's got the legs for it. It's great for these, but I don't think it could sustain 30 times 6 or 10.
The characters are too.
They're very specific. I like them. They're well done. The format isn't there, I think. But, you know.
Yes, I agree.
Prove me wrong.
I was just joking.
Yeah,
so we've gone pretty long here today. We've got a couple of things to discuss as far as reviews and things, but we'll save that for next week, guys. Don't worry, we haven't forgot about you. But if you want us to read a review on the show, leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We will read it here. Email's fine. I've actually got something to discuss from an email. But yeah, we've talked too long, ran out of time. So we'll get to that soon enough. But find me on Blue Sky. Send me an email, wes@appleinsider.com, or leave a Apple podcast review for the show, and we will talk about it here. William, where can people get a hold of you?
Well, actually, with luck, you'll find me around the Birmingham Literature Festival all weekend and all next week. But given that that only accessible if you're near the town, William@AppleInsider.com or 58 Keys on YouTube is probably the easiest way. And I do love getting emails, so that's best for me.
And if you enjoyed Controversy Corner as much as you can, we're going to take a little bit of a turn, but we're going to be discussing Apple's ability to respond to government demands and what role it plays there. And I'm sure William and I will have differences because of just our place in the world. So I think it'll be an interesting conversation. Don't worry. I think it'll be a little less specific overall. But if you are not an Apple Insider Plus subscriber and would like to listen to that, you can subscribe in Apple Podcasts, or you can go through our Patreon and you get an ad-free show in addition to that bonus content. So here we go. We're going to wrap up, and I would like to thank our sponsors, Insta360, once again, and we will talk next week.